Bonnie and Clyde's final showdown. From the time Bonnie Parker met Clyde Barrow back in 1930, it seemed as though they were always running from the law. At first, the press and general public had looked upon this unlikely couple with something resembling star-struck eyes. True, they were outlaws, but they were also desperately in love with each other, which made for a rather twisted romantic tale. But in January 1934, Clyde made a fatal mistake while carrying out what he called the Eastham breakout. The plan was to help two Barrow gang members, Raymond Hamilton and Henry Melvin, break out of jail. The plan worked, but during the escape, a police officer was shot and killed. As a result, an official posse, headed by Frank Hamer, was formed with the sole intent of tracking down Bonnie and Clyde. In the month after the Eastham breakout, Hamer studied Bonnie and Clyde's movements. He discovered that the pair kept to a fairly regular pattern that involved traveling back and forth across the Midwest. Hamer also learned that Bonnie and Clyde used specific locations to meet in the event they were ever separated from the rest of the Barrow gang. Upon hearing that the pair had recently split off from other gang members during a chase, Hamer checked his maps for the couple's nearest rendezvous point, which turned out to be the Louisiana home of Melvin's father, Ivy. Hamer quickly held a meeting and told the posse they were heading south. By mid-May, the posse had arrived in the tiny town of Gippsland, Louisiana. Finding that Bonnie and Clyde hadn't arrived yet, Hamer decided to set up an ambush along Highway 154, the only road into Gippsland. The posse picked a wooded location along the road and began unpacking the dozens of guns and hundreds of rounds of ammunition that they had brought with them. The only thing left to figure out was how to get Bonnie and Clyde to stop their car so arrests could be made, or a clear shot could be had if they attempted to run. Hamer came up with a solution. Ivy Melvin's truck was placed on the side of the road as if it had broken down, directly opposite from where the posse was hiding in the trees. Hamer hoped that Bonnie and Clyde would recognize the truck and stop to help Ivy. This would put the pair only a few feet away from the posse's hiding place. As for Melvin's role in all this, some say he willingly helped the posse in exchange for his son getting a pardon. Others claim the posse tied Melvin to a tree and gagged him before stealing his truck. Either way, the truck was put in place and the posse took its position in the trees along the road on the evening of May 21st. Working in shifts, the posse waited all night and the following day with no sign of Bonnie and Clyde. They were about ready to leave on the morning of May 23rd when, at approximately 9 a.m., they heard Clyde's stolen car approaching. At that point, Hamer and the other 5 men present, Texas Ranger Manny Galt, Dallas Deputy Sheriffs Bob Acorn and Ted Hinton, and Louisiana officers Henderson Jordan and Prentice Oakley, took cover in the trees. The official report said that Clyde, with Bonnie in the passenger seat, slowed the car as it neared Melvin's truck. At that point, standard procedure would have been for the posse to make an announcement and give the couple a chance to surrender peacefully. Hamer, however, gave the order to simply fire at will. The first shot was fired by Oakley, which by all accounts fatally wounded Clyde in the head. The rest of the posse members weren't taking any chances, though, and they all fired at the car with their automatic rifles, using up all the rounds before the car even came to a complete stop. The posse members then emptied their shotguns into the car, which had rolled past them and had come to a stop in a ditch. Finally, all of the men fired their pistols at the car until all weapons were empty. In all, approximately 130 rounds were fired. When it was all over, Bonnie and Clyde were both dead. Upon examination, it was reported that the bodies each contained 25 bullet wounds, though some reports put that number as high as 50. Unlike Clyde, who died almost instantly, it is believed that Bonnie endured an excruciating amount of pain, and several members of the posse reported hearing her scream as the bullets ripped into her. For this reason, and many people to this day question the actions of the posse members and wonder why they never gave the pair a chance to surrender. Afterward, the members of the posse removed most of the items from Bonnie and Clyde's car, including guns, clothing, and even a saxophone. Later, they supposedly allowed bystanders to go up to the car and take everything from shell casings and broken glass to bloody pieces of Bonnie and Clyde's clothing and locks of their hair. There are even reports that 2 different people had to be stopped when they attempted to remove parts of Clyde's body, his ear and his finger, as grisly souvenirs. Despite Bonnie and Clyde's wish to be buried alongside each other, Bonnie's parents chose to bury her alone in the Crown Hill Memorial Park in Dallas. Clyde Barrow was interred at another Dallas cemetery, Western Heights. Even though it has been more than 70 years since Bonnie and Clyde left this earth, they are still as popular as ever. Every May, the town of Gippsland holds its annual Bonnie and Clyde Festival, the highlights of which is a reenactment of the shootout complete with fake blood. If you're looking for something even more morbid, Bonnie and Clyde's bullet-riddled car and even the shirt Clyde wore on that fateful day are both currently part of a display at the Prim Valley Resort and Casino in Nevada.